Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lori. I'm the treasurer of NJ Public Health Innovation Political Action Committee, NJPHIPAC, and today I'm joined by board secretary and co-founder Katie Rivera. We couldn't be
Hi.
more we couldn't be more excited to be coming live once again from our PAC Chat StreamYard studio to kick off our 2022 primary election endorsement season with our interview of the highly anticipated endorsement of Congressional District 9 candidate, Mr. Billy Prempeh. Stay tuned as we'll be inviting him to join us in just a moment. But first, if it's your first time tuning into the PAC Chat, welcome. And if you're a returning viewer, welcome back. I'm sure many of you joining us, whether you're returning or here for the first time, are here because you, like us, are seeing that at an alarming rate, the government in this state and across the nation are encroaching on our health sovereignty, both individual and on a more global front with infringements such as overreaching mandates, repeals on exemptions, micromanagement of our health data, and much more. In regards to these threats, many of you may even be left feeling disempowered by your individual abilities to protect your own body, bodily autonomy, or perhaps with the lack of transparency and informed consent, or maybe with the stripping of your parental rights here in New Jersey and beyond. This is why we launched NJPHIPAC and created this innovative platform to give you, our community, the opportunity to meet key political players and influential people in our state who share our determination to protect and preserve our individual health choices and who ultimately will help us get this state back on track. After all, public health is and can only be the product of the personal health of every single man, woman, and child in the community. When our elected officials respect the health of each of us individually, they will be cultivating the health of all of us as a community. Now I'm going to pass it over to Katie to elaborate further on who we are and review our endorsement process.
Thanks, Lori. All right. So NJPHIPAC is a nonprofit, nonpartisan New Jersey State Political Action Committee. We are an organization made up of deeply committed and experienced advocates across a myriad of professional backgrounds who formed this PAC with one mission: to protect and strengthen the constitutionally guaranteed and fundamental rights of all New Jersey residents to make medical decisions for themselves and their families without coercion or undue constraint. Our primary goal in forming NJPHIPAC is to give the power back to the people of New Jersey by elevating political candidates and influencers who will either help or hurt that mission. Our endorsement process was developed with a set of standards and integrity. Every endorsement we make requires at minimum that the candidate complete and submit the NJPHIPAC survey, the candidate participate in an in-depth interview, private interview with the board of directors, and other factors and considerations that we take into account when we're endorsing are: is there a prior voting record? Has the candidates made public statements about their position on our issue? And much more. Ultimately, the NJPHIPAC standards are to endorse candidates with transparency, integrity, and measurement without bias. To be an integral resource to New Jersey voters in this 2022 election year, our aim is to guide you to where your votes are warranted. The primaries are an important race, as this is how we choose the best candidate to take the general. The 2022 congressional race in New Jersey is an opportunity for you, New Jersey voters, to ensure health freedom and parental rights is represented statewide and now nationally. When you see the NJPHIPAC Gold Seal endorsement, you can rest assured that this is the best candidate for our collective mission. Our 2022 Congressional Endorsement Guide will be out in time for you to cast those votes. In the meantime, our current and future endorsements can be found on our website at www.njphipac.org/endorsements. Another note for our viewers today is you can give a little to help a lot. NJ5PAC is a statewide grassroots PAC. We rely on contributions from New Jersey voters, such as yourself, to be successful. There is no corporate funding behind us, no ties to industry. We rely solely on the support of our donors to influence political elections in the state. All of our contributions are used 100% to directly influence key campaigns across the state of New Jersey. Donations allow us to support the campaigns of candidates who align with our mission. This support increases the candidate's exposure and influences an election to seat the candidates who will advocate on our behalf in New Jersey and beyond. We saw this with many of the new incoming elected candidates in the 2021 New Jersey legislative race who our organization got behind. So now I'm going to pass it back over to Lori, and we're going to bring Billy on and introduce him to everyone.
Thank you, Katie. Without further ado, I now have the pleasure of introducing Congressional Candidate Mr. Billy Prempeh. For those unfamiliar to the parameters of Congressional District 9, that district includes parts of Passaic, Hudson, and Bergen counties. Hi, Billy.
How are you, ladies? Thank you for having me on.
Thanks for coming.
Well, it's always a pleasure speaking with you.
It's always nice to see you. So first of all, on behalf of the PAC board, we want to extend our congratulations on your endorsement and thank you for outwardly taking a stand up on our important issues.
Thank you so much. And this is an important issue for not just everybody in the state of New Jersey, but myself as well, and many people across the United States. So when I get into Congress in November, I intend on upholding the same type of steadfast defense of our medical rights that I've always been doing here in the state. And I want to push that all across the country. I don't think that what happened during this shutdown should ever happen again. And I will do everything in my power to ensure it never does when I get into Congress.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Billy, so just to get us started, do you think that you can give us a little bit about yourself, both personally, professionally, and, kind of walk us through what brought you into politics?
So I come from humble beginnings. I still have very humble beginnings. I'm from Paterson, New Jersey. I've lived here my entire life. I'm a first-generation American. My parents, they immigrated to the United States in 1986, and they came here to live the American life and take full advantage of everything that America has to offer for us. And I'm forever thankful for them doing that. We didn't grow up rich. We grew up in a pretty large inner city. And I've lived here my entire life. I still live here. And I worked regular jobs as a regular person, nothing special, till I was about 18 when I decided to join the United States Air Force. I was stationed in RAF Mildenhall, United Kingdom, where I did aerospace ground equipment maintenance. And upon returning home in 2011, I saw that our country was going in a really weird direction. And I'd been paying a lot of attention to politics, especially being in the military and being involved in some of these conflicts and support roles. It really shifted my political perspective. I was someone who thought they were a Democrat their entire life because everybody in Paterson's a Democrat. But after going in and seeing the real world firsthand, I began to realize that a lot of the things that I thought I believed were not only not practical, but they weren't my beliefs that I actually agreed with. And when I came home and I saw how much our country had changed, I felt that something needed to be done. But I never in a million years thought I'd be involved in politics 9 years later in the future, when I went to a Trump rally, which was a real big culture shock for me. Seeing so many Republicans in one place, in a place like New Jersey, where you've been told historically it's a blue state, which I don't totally believe after seeing that. I met several people who saw something in me, more specifically Dr. Hector Castillo, who's been a internal medicine doctor in Paterson, New Jersey for many, many years. I was with him at this Trump rally, and he heard some of the things that I was saying, and he suggested that I run for Congress. He ran against my opponent before in 2016. At that time, he got more votes for a Republican than anybody's gotten, and he was so convinced, like annoyingly convinced, that he would just hit me over the head all the time and say, "Billy, you have to run for Congress. Like you were 100% the guy to do it. Like just everything about you, I think is great. I think the way you speak, the things your history, the fact that you defended this country, your parents came into this country the right way. They brought 14 other relatives into this country. They all came in the right way. If anybody understands immigration, it's you. If anybody understands military and geopolitics, it's you. You were involved in a lot of these things, and you live in the most impoverished area of the district. Not just that, you live in the 4th Ward, which is the most dangerous part of our city. So I think if anybody's going to turn around the district, it has to be someone that has real world experience, someone that has seen the world from many different angles, and someone that has the ability to do it. And he said, "Billy, if you don't do it, I want you to understand something. I'm a doctor. I'm an old man now. I've lived my life. I've made my money. I don't have to live under Pascal for much longer." And it was like, you, on the other hand, your children, your friends, your family, everybody in your generation, you're going to have to continue to live under these legislations and these policies that are being put forth by him. And they're going to hurt you, because you look at our city right now. He's been in office for 26 years. Before that, he was the mayor of the city. Before that, he was an assemblyman. Before that, he was on the board of ed. And before that, he was a teacher. He was been in politics for well over 40 years, and he's controlled your city. So if you don't do something about it, that's your future you're saying goodbye to. And when we had that conversation, it really got me thinking. And I really just had to do a little bit of an assessment of where my life was, where the life of the people in my community is. And I started to go around into the district and meet with a couple of the people that I already knew that lived in the district. And surprisingly, a lot of them agreed, "Billy, you should run." And I decided to get involved for office. And the longer I was involved in 2020, the more I realized the problem is much bigger than just Congress. The problem is than just the state of New Jersey. The problem is national, and this is something that many people across the country are facing. So if I can resolve the problems here in my community, I believe that the policies and the legislation that I present will be able to help benefit people all across the United States. And I decided to run. So even though in 2020 we weren't able to win the last race, we did, however, get more votes than Dr. Castillo got by an additional 38,000 votes. So we ended off with 98,000 plus votes. We got more votes for Republican than anybody's gotten in the past 26 years in this district. And the demographics have changed significantly in this race, to the point where we have a extremely good shot at flipping the 9th district, especially considering how bad the morale of the Democrat Party is today. So I'm very excited, and I'm very excited to represent the state of New Jersey and the people in 2022.
Thank you so much for that colorful background. And I just have one question to add to that. You mentioned that, and I've heard this before from many people, that many people feel this, but you mentioned that you had always identified and thought that you were a Democrat your whole life, and then here you were standing at this Trump rally, and now you're running on the Republican ticket. So can you talk a little bit about how you take your experience with that and walk into the communities in your district and try to connect the dots for people that this is, about this?
Okay, so I actually became a Republican in 2011 when I got out of the military, and that's big thanks to Ron Paul and Rand Paul. They are my favorite politicians of modern time. And Ron Paul's stance on fiscal policy and the Federal Reserve and the fractional reserve banking system is what really got me, because I could never understand why our country was getting into tremendous debt. We were getting into wars that nobody wanted us to be in, yet the American people were not benefiting. I mean, even right now, our government just sent $40 billion to Ukraine, while in Paterson, people are literally dying every single day. Flint, Michigan still has disgusting water. People have a very terrible standard of living here in the United States, yet we're sending money all over the world. I mean, here, even in the city of Paterson, which is essentially a sanctuary city, where hundreds of illegals are coming and living in our city, they're living in PAC. They're coming from over the border, and when the former president requested $5 billion to secure our border, they didn't do that. But that same year, they gave $50 billion to El Salvador and Honduras, and now we have a caravan coming into our country. So I started, when I go out and I talk to people, I say, do you believe that the government really, or at least this local government, the state government, represents you and the needs that you want? And about 90% of the time, the answer is no. So then I asked them, well, why do you continue to vote Democrat? Well, because, it's all I know. And the truth is, I think this is where the Republican Party has failed. The Republican Party doesn't show up in the areas where they really need to show up. And this is the areas where there's a lot of election fraud. Patterson's one of those areas that's very notorious for that. Newark, Irvington, Camden, New Jersey, Trenton, New Jersey. These are areas where Republicans need to be, and they're not there. So I took it upon myself to say, I'm going to run a race that many people in the Republican Party say is unwinnable. Nobody can do it. And the truth be told, it's some of the people in the Republican Party are working hand in hand with these same leaders that are keeping these cities impoverished. So when I talk to people, I start with a very simple statement. I don't ask too many questions. I don't come and knock someone's door and say, hey, I'm the Republican guy, vote for me. I did that in 2020 and it worked to some extent. But, what I realize is people don't really care about party, especially places like here in Patterson. They don't care about party. They'll vote Democrat because there's no other Republicans. But what they want to know is, what exactly are you going to do for us? What exactly are you going to do for the people? And I come with solutions, and I want to know what the problem is to people, because I've got a very comprehensive plan on my website for several different policies, from infrastructure, bringing manufacturing back, trade programs for our schools, how to help single mothers and pregnant women to give them alternatives to keep the children alive rather than abortion. I've got all kinds of plans to help the people. So when I come to someone's door and I knock, I start very simply. Hey, how are you? My name is Billy Prempeh. I'm running for Congress. Just wanted to drop off some literature. I got some information on there on the back. But right before I leave this door, I just want to ask you one question. How do you feel about the direction of our country right now? And it'll range from energy to the LGBT curriculum in school. I'm sick of the mandates, whatever the case may be. And I find out what they're at. So someone says, I can't find the job. My kids can't find a job. And I say, that's one of the main reasons why I'm running. That's why I created something called the Freedom of Education Plan. And this is a program that will bring the trade programs back into our schools without increasing taxes on the parents. One of the biggest issues that we hear is, if we put these trade programs in our school, taxes are going to go up. Homeowners are not going to be able to afford it. So that's why we removed it. Well, my solution is, why don't we reach out to several business professionals that are in the field and open up slots in high schools, right? I can create a federal framework where they can opt in and work with these schools, and the businesses will practically bid on contracts to work with our high schools and say, hey, listen, I want to teach your children IT, finance, electrical, plumbing, whatever career path it is. That business owner will continue to pay an employee to work inside of these schools and teach the children how to do what they do at a professional level. Now, the incentive for the business owner doing this is my federal framework would actually give that business owner a significant tax advantage and a tax break so that they can afford to have one of their employees in our schools. Now, if a business wants to dedicate machinery and equipment to help advance that education, that business owner should have the right to 100% sign that off as a donation towards the school. Now, when you have a program like this, no money is coming out of our education budget. No money is coming out of the pockets of our parents, where they have to increase taxes to pay for these programs. The business owner is doing this. There's not a single business owner that I've ever met that doesn't want a tax break. There's not a single parent that I've ever met that doesn't want a good quality education for their kids. And there's not a single student that I've ever met that doesn't want a career when they get out of high school, or at least an opportunity to get a career when they come out of high school. Traditionally, we go straight into college, we get saddled in debt, and we have no idea where to go from there. I want our children, while they're in a 4-year high school, from the time they're freshmen up until senior, they don't just graduate with a diploma, they're also graduating with a certification in the program that they chose, where they're trained by an actual professional how to do what they do. So when they're coming out with skills, they're coming out with the real world tools to actually benefit them. You can go to college if you want. If you don't go to college, you still have your skill. Or you and your friends can get together and start your own business if that's something you want to do. But these are opportunities that currently don't exist. And the current congressperson is focused on dividing our country. He's focused on Democrat versus Republican. Never forget about January 6th. Never forget the fact that Joe Biden gave you a stimulus check. And never forget that orange man bad. These are the only things that they have to bring to the table. And I'm bringing plans. I'm bringing solutions. And I have an entire framework to push our country forward. So what do you think about that? That typically sounds great. Well, I hope to expect your vote in November. Let me ask you, what party are you? I'm Republican. Really? You're a Republican? And you would think I'm a Democrat because, I'm a 6'2" black dude, dreadlocks. I'm from Patterson. You would think that. But there are a lot of conservatives that are here. And what a lot of people don't understand is that they may not even realize they're conservative, because the things that we want are things that all Americans want. All Americans want opportunity. They want the right to feel safe. I've never met a single person that actually lives where I live that says they don't want any more cops. Okay, because there's so many shootings happening in this community. It's not even funny. So I want to present solutions, and these are the things that helps me to get my message forward. It's what I think would help the Republican Party more so, because we can't just lead with tropes like we want America first. We want to secure our elections. We want whatever it is that they're stating. If that's what you're stating, well, what are the solutions to that? What are the solutions that we could put on the table? You don't want your children to be involved in the LGBT curriculum. I totally understand that. Well, then why don't we, if the schools want to, if the boards of education want to insist that our children do this, then I think there should be a program where parents have to opt into these programs rather than opting out, because that's the solution you have. Well, if you don't want that program, opt out. They shouldn't be taught that right off the bat in the first place. When I was a kid and we had health sciences we had health classes in school. When it came to sexual education, I remember coming home with the form that the parent had to fill out and sign. Like, do you want your children to learn about, contraceptives and safe sex and, the human anatomy, which is essentially all we were taught while we were in high school. And these were things that parents had to opt into. Now they want children to learn about gender identity and all kinds of things, and you, the parent, have to opt out of that program. I think if I want my child to know about that, I should have the right to opt in. I shouldn't have my child subjected to that without my consent.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm sad that Rula wasn't on this one. She loves the trades and she would have loved to be part of that. But thank you so much. All these things sound wonderful.
And there's many more, but we have time. We have a time constraint, but I can go on for hours.
As we mentioned earlier, things accelerated really quickly in New Jersey, and before we knew it, the people of New Jersey were faced with masking, lockdowns, vaccine mandates for employment, including the state employees, school personnel, healthcare workers. Many have been affected by all this on so many levels. And I know specifically in your district, there are a lot of people that would vote for you if they knew where you stood on these issues. People that lost their jobs, people that were forced to do things they didn't want to, or even people that just fundamentally disagree with these policies. Can you share with us your thoughts on these requirements?
I think the requirements are draconian, because you're essentially being forced to. I'll give you a perfect example. I'm about to go back to school for network managing and wireless area network management. And one of the things they told me in the program was, well, since the school is in New York, a part of the program is you're going to have to do an internship, and a lot of these programs in New York require you have a vaccine. And at some point, who knows if anything changes in the school in New York, you may be required to get a vaccine, or maybe the monkeypox vaccine if it ever becomes mandated. And I said, if I have to do that, then that's a deal breaker. I'm not coming to this school. And I'm like, oh, no, that's fine. But, just in case, I just want to let you know that in advance. The problem that I have with that is that businesses, schools, and now the healthcare system they'll dangle a carrot in front of your head and say, if you want to live a normal life, work, drive, and do the things that you typically would, put food on the table for your family, then you have to inject yourself with a questionable substance that we have no idea what's going to happen 5, 10, 15, maybe 20 years from now, from the time someone is taking this. There's all kinds of speculation about this vaccine. There's people stating that they've suffered myocarditis and heart failures and heart problems, and the media will censor this, the social media will censor this. So nobody knows what's true. And for that reason alone, I should have the right to say no. But the fact that you're forcing me to take this, you're forcing my livelihood you're basically saying, inject yourself with this or go into poverty. Inject yourself with this or you don't get the education that you want. Inject yourself with this or you're not going to be able to travel and visit loved ones abroad and so forth. None of that is fair. That's not American. And I think that completely violates your right to self-preservation and our own choices to be secure in ourselves. We can't do that. And when we have global authorities like the World Health Organization, who currently Joe Biden is now, well, he recently was with this weekend, where they're talking about giving authority over to the World Health Organization and centralized groups that can essentially dictate the health decisions of the entire world. That's very, very scary at this point. That's very, very scary. And for a lot of people that have been following me and have witnessed my growth in the whole political sphere, they will know that I am one of the most vocal anti-mandate persons there is, whether it be in front of the state house in Trenton, giving speeches, riding in the caravan for to end the mandates and spreading the word. Like, I've always been a very, very vocal advocate of it. And I think it's important for people to be able to maintain those rights. When we get to a position where government has to make a decision for you, especially a health decision that depends on you, that's a problem. It's like if the government came out and said, hey, if you don't smoke cigarettes, you can't get this job. Now, this is an extreme example, but I think that might be harmful. Well, too bad. You have to do it, or else you don't live your life. I don't agree with that, and I'm going to continue to fight for that until the end of time, because this is America. This is not some other country where the government controls all. The people control the government, not the other way around. And I believe that a lot of the American people have completely forgotten about the fact that the power is with us, not with the people at the top.
Thank you, and it's so true. And I think, if people look into issues, they'd vote for you. Can you tell us about your campaign in your district? What challenges, if any, are you up against, and what's your path to victory?
So we've dedicated a lot of so first off, let me just backtrack a little bit. We've run a race that's been very I would say controversial in the eyes of the Republican Party. And I'm talking about the state Republican Party, where we don't really get too much recognition for what we do. So and this was from 2020 onward into 2021. So I kind of had to build my own airplane and jump off a cliff and fly with it. And thank God we were able to land that plane.
And good thing you were in the Air Force. You had experience.
I was a mechanic. I wasn't a pilot.
But you learned how to build.
There you go. So I learned how to build a plane, and thank God it worked, because I don't know how to fly one, but I figured out very quickly. But in 2021, we spent a significant amount of time on getting the name recognition up. In 2020, there were a few people that knew me as, like, the Trump guy with the Trump hat and the dreadlocks. That's how everybody knew me as. And I spent 2021 on building name recognition, reaching out to a lot more people. We went to a lot of fairs. We did a ton of commercials. We did a lot of media engagement on Fox, CNN, OAN, Newsmax. We were all over the place, and that really helped us put our name on the map, to the point where, like, now people are really starting to pay attention to this campaign. And we're continuing to do that. The good news now in 2022 is the fact that we've defeated all of our primary opponents. There's no one that we have to face. We're going straight to the general election. So we've been spending the past 6 or so Saturdays on volunteer engagement, door-to-door knocking, phone banking. Even tomorrow, this Saturday, we're going to be doing either phone banking if it rains, or we're going to be knocking doors in Clifton, New Jersey. So if anybody is listening, then just get a hold of them if you want to join the movement, because we're having fun over here. But we're going out, we're reaching out to the people, we're knocking doors, we're spreading the word. And everything's been good. Now, the some very positive things that have happened is, from 2020 up until 2022, the district changed significantly. Where in the old district, we had Cresskill all the way down to Edgewater was a part of our district. That got completely ripped out, and it got added to District 5, while Franklin Lakes, Oakland, Wayne, the northern part of Wayne, because the way it's cut, Garfield and North Hilden were added to the district, as well as 2 other municipalities. And I had a feeling that this was going to happen. And looking at the numbers in 2020's race, I saw that the candidate that ran in District 5, if I'm not mistaken, he got 45%, while the candidate that ran in 11 got 47% of the votes. So I'm looking at my race, and I said, well, if they want to keep Gottheimer and Mickey Sherrill here, they're going to have to make my district redder, or make those districts bluer. And while many people in the GOP, I'm not going to mention any names, but a lot of people in the higher leadership in the NJGOP were telling me to drop out, not to run in 2022, and it's not a good idea. They don't want me to burn my political clout, as if they care about my clout. We want you to, you should run for something like, council or something. Basically, you don't want me getting involved in the mix. And I was determined. I was like, you're not backing me out of this. I see it. And what I thought was going to happen is exactly what happened. So the district went from a D16 to a D9. We've got a lot more opportunity, because these towns we pulled in are practically solid Republican, while the Cresskill down to the Fort Lee, Englewood Cliffs area is strongly Democrat. That's all gone. These are all big money towns that my opponent raised tons and tons of money in as well, and all those areas have disappeared. So the good news is that now that our district has gotten redder, my opponent is for the first time actually getting up and trying to campaign in the best way that an 85-year-old man can, and he's trying to spread his wings far and wide. But I know he's nervous, especially after this past mayor's race in Paterson, New Jersey. Now, Paterson is the largest municipality in the district with about 80,000 plus voters. But despite that, about a week or 2 weeks ago was the mayoral race and at-large council race, where there was about 12 council people running for council and about 5 people that are running for mayor. Every single one of them Democrats. Now, mind you, this is a city of 80,000 registered voters. When I ran in 2020, I got 5,084 voters in Paterson out of the 8,000 registered Republicans, while the opponent got 40,000. Now, this was also on a Joe Biden, Donald Trump presidential year, so it was a larger turnout. It's presidential year. Here, we're talking about me and Bill Pascrell at the top of the ticket. This year, the mayor's race, with 2020 breaking the violent crime records of 1986, 2021 breaking the violent crime numbers of 2020, and 22 is on pace to break the violent crime records of 2021. It's only getting worse. Despite that, only 13,000 out of the 80,000 registered voters came out and voted. And they voted for the same mayor again. But the problem that is very scary about this is important. And none of you came out, and you're all Democrats. So what that shows me is that the morale of the Democrat Party is not as strong as it used to be, and people are starting to question for different alternatives. I've even seen people that literally hated my guts and wanted to shoot me in the face completely turn, and now they're actually listening to what I want to talk about. They actually agree with some of the policies, and I think that whole narrative and that control grid that the Democrats have had for a very long time is starting to fracture, and it's starting to fracture faster and faster and faster the more our country goes downhill. They look to our mayor. People are dying in our community. They look to our assemblymen. They're silent. They're nowhere to be found. They look to our governor. He locked us down. He shut down our businesses. He sent sick patients into COVID hospitals where people's relatives died, and no one's holding him accountable. We look at the president. The president's in office right now. The Continental Pipeline gets hacked. Gas goes through the roof. He scraps the Keystone Pipeline. Gas goes through the roof. He puts sanction on Russia while he allows the Russian pipeline to continue to go into Germany. And we were purchasing oil from Russia for a while. Then we stopped, then the price goes up. We printed all this money. We've got all these stimulus checks, and now the inflation goes up. The president is now looking to try and get oil from Venezuela and Iran, and that doesn't sound good. So we're seeing a pattern of nonstop failure. Even at the border to this day, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people are crossing the border every single day, and they're coming into cities like this. So the people are beginning to realize that these people talk about how much they care about us, how the Republicans are evil, Democrats good, and we care about you, when in reality, everything they're doing is done with a smile and a beautiful glittery bow. But at the end of the day, they're trying to take us down. They're trying to destroy us, and they want to keep us poor and crippled so that they can control the direction of our thinking. Nothing that the Democrat Party has put forth has benefited the American people as of 2020. Nothing that they've done has pushed our country in the right direction. We're actually going backwards. We're not a competitive force in the world financially. We're not a competitive force in the world militarily. I mean, look what's going on in Ukraine. And while our country is struggling, we are now acting as the piggy bank of the world, giving 40 billion here, 10 billion here, 20 billion here, and not a dime is being invested in our country, especially in our inner cities where we're struggling the most, where there's the least amount of opportunity, where's the highest crime, where there's the lowest education rates. We're sending money to another country. I believe that if before we send any foreign aid, I'm a strong believer of America first and only America first. Like, there's some people that'll come to me and say, oh, what about the people that are starving in Rwanda? That's terrible, but that's not America's problem. What about Israel? We should give money to Israel. Israel's our ally. I like Israel, but that's not our problem. We can't keep giving money to the world. I don't believe that any country, regardless of where you are, or where you're from, or what your situation is, America should not give any other country a single dime until we resolve every single problem our country has. If New Jersey has an infrastructure problem, we need to fix that. If Indiana has a problem with its water system, we need to fix that. If Montana has a problem with its agricultural supply or whatever's going on there, we need to fix that. If we are lacking industries, we need to fix that. All of these problems need to be fixed before a single dime dime goes out of the country. It makes no sense for us to try and be the saviors of the world if we can't save ourselves. Because right now, this plane is heading towards the water. It's about to crash. And when that happens, what is it that happens when the plane's about to crash? The mask comes down, right? But what's the thing they tell you, right? Put your mask on first before you put on someone else's, because if you can't breathe, you can't save yourself. Both of you are going to die. And that's a situation that America is in. So we got to put our country first. And when I talk about this, people resonate with it. The people that have voted Democrat, they resonate with this. And they may never be Republicans. They may just shift independent, but that's good enough for me, because I think people should be voting on policy rather than voting on party. And I have a lot of policies.
Clear. I like it. You've put a lot of thought into your platform. So how has championing this issue, medical freedom, affected your campaign, if at all? And how will you navigate these issues on the national front?
I think it's helped the campaign, because it's a language that everybody speaks. You know, I've gone to some of these medical freedom rallies, and, you know, sometimes half of the crowd will be Democrats or people independent or people in between. It's a very unifying message because it has nothing to do with politics. The problem is that the Democrat Party tends to make it about politics. Oh, Donald Trump didn't want to shut the country down. He didn't want to get the vaccine. The Republicans are anti-vaxxers. It's got nothing to do with that. People on all walks of life are not feeling this. All right. Some people want to take it. Great. They should not be ridiculed. They should not be made fun of or treated poorly because they decided to take that procedure. But neither should the people that didn't want to take it, right? And everybody falls into that category. So this has helped significantly because many people agree. And as Americans, we have the right to be able to choose what we want to do.
Thank you. Actually, my first time having a civilian random person come up to me and talk to me about the Tuskegee experiment was on Crooks Avenue in Patterson. They overheard a conversation I was having, and they said, "Oh, you need to look this up." I'm like, "Oh, you don't know who you're talking to, but sure."
You know, speaking of Tuskegee incident, that reminds me of a video that I did back in October, that was based off of a tweet that we did about 3 weeks prior to this video. And the tweet was talking about how in New York, when they said everybody has to have a vaccine to do business, essentially, 72% of African Americans between the ages of 18 and 44 were unvaccinated and did not have vaccine cards, right? So for that reason, about 72% of African Americans were outcasted from doing business in New York when these mandates were in place. So I made a statement saying that if you believe that voter ID is racist, then you should believe that the vaccine ID is racist as well. Twitter and all the social medias deleted that post. Twitter eventually put it back up, but they deleted that post and claimed that it was hate speech. So I thought that was crazy. And I said, you know what? I need to make a video that's properly explaining this, more specifically to the African-American population and to the white liberals that seem to be on Twitter and say, well, you know, you can't choose your skin color, but you can choose your health record. You should do it. Just shut up and do it, black man. Just put that in your body. And these people are vicious when I would see them online. So I made this video. And I put this video out. I was expecting to be completely ripped off of social media and deleted for making it. But in that video, I talk about the reasons why a lot of African Americans are reluctant to take the vaccine, or why they're reluctant to do anything that the government says you should do because of your health. And in one of those examples we brought up was the Tuskegee experiment, where they said they were testing for skin tests, and they ended up testing syphilis on these people, you know, or the radiation experiments where they were testing radiation effects on the prison population, most of which were minority, the Agent Orange experiments. And I went into all these details of all the times where the government has told black people, go and do this, and it never worked out in our favor. And I use this to kind of explain to people that it's like, just because the government says something doesn't mean that it's always in your best interest. In fact, there's and that was only 3 or 4 examples. There's literally tens, if not 50 different examples of when the government told you that they were going to do something and they did the complete opposite that harmed the people. And that video, to my surprise, didn't get me ripped off. It's actually one of the most viral videos that I've ever done. And across all social media platforms, the video got about 10 million views and responses, and many people shared it and reposted it as well. But the message resonates with a lot of people. What that showed me is that I'm not the only one that thinks this. I'm not the only one that believes that we should have autonomy over our bodies when it comes to these vaccine mandates. So yeah, that's where we are. I forgot where I was going with that, but that's right, the Tuskegee experiment. But that's why we did that, and that actually helped get the message out quite a bit.
I mean, it's never been a bad time to be nonpartisan for us, but
I agree.
it's funny because in your district specifically, you're up against somebody who is pro mandate, and I don't know if as if voters knew that they wouldn't be able, that hypothetically they wouldn't be able to go out to eat or keep their job based on that, they would come out, because what else is more important to you than your children or your job or your basic rights? So please solidify for our audience, in the arena of health freedom, what was your aha moment regarding these issues and your need to be so vocal? Because you are one of our most vocal supporters.
The aha moment that I had was when Donald Trump sent the Navy hospital ships, the one to California, one off the coast of California, and one off the coast of New York. And instead of New York and New Jersey sending people to those ships, they almost never sent anybody. They said, oh, we're going to send them right here to Central Park. And then I saw videos of these cots being completely empty, or I saw the Javits Center, and Javits Center is completely empty. And rather than sending people to these ships, they sent them to nursing homes where more people died, and then the numbers jacked up, and then the media started telling you, look, it's spiking, when in reality they murdered people. That was my wake-up call, and I said, this has nothing to do with public health. This has nothing to do with helping anybody. This is purely a political agenda at this point, and I can't see any reason as to why they would send people into those hospitals to die unless they wanted to actually jack those numbers up, which is exactly what they did. And once I saw that, I said, this is ridiculous. If somebody wants to take that shot, you go right ahead. Me, I'm never ever going to take that shot. But if you want to go and take it, by all means. I saw with my own eyes what the government did, and I don't think that it's acceptable if we just sit here and be quiet and allow them to continue to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Billy. Our next question for you is, well, health freedom is a basic human right, which we believe should not be defined by party lines. So, much like how you're campaigning in your district, what will you do once you're in Congress to encourage representatives, regardless of their party affiliation, to reach across the aisle and actually affect change with regard to these issues around health freedom?
Well, one of the things that I would push is like that there should never be, because I know states are going to have their own individual rights and they're going to make their own decisions on what needs to be done. And unfortunately, I wouldn't have any power to do anything about that from a federal level. But what I will do is, similar to how Joe Biden tried to use OSHA from a federal level to enforce these mandates on businesses, I'll push legislation that would ensure that the federal government could never do such a thing. If there's a medical procedure that someone wants to take, it should purely be up to their choice to go out there and do it. This should be their choice to go out there and do it. But if the federal government wants to force you to do it, because you're not just forcing the people, you're also forcing the states, because you're usurping their states' rights to force them to do this medical procedure, I think that's unacceptable. And I think that every congressperson should be in agreement with that. It's not the federal government's place to come and force individual people as well as individual states to do their will, even if the people don't want to do it.
Yep. And then the last question that I have for you, I'm not sure if you're, considering that you mentioned your aha moment with all of this was really through the pandemic, much of our community actually had aha moments with regards to health freedom and parental rights issues prior to the pandemic. And one thing that our community, that affected our community and really affects everybody in the nation, is that in 1986, Ronald Reagan had signed into law the National Vaccine Compensation Act. And it ensured that vaccine manufacturers could not be held liable for any adverse reaction or death that occurred due to their product for children. And we want to ask you if you can share with our audience, what you think about that. And is there anything that you would or could do to change this in Congress?
So what I think needs to be done is there's two solutions that I think need to be done. As number one, I think that I think that if you do a medical procedure on somebody, right? If I do plastic surgery and I mess that up, you can sue my insurance for malpractice. I think the same thing should happen if you do a vaccine and the vaccine affects me. I should be able to sue you. But let's just say we keep the same situation that Ronald Reagan put in place, right? Stating that these vaccine manufacturers cannot be sued. For that reason alone, it should be the person's choice. Because if they can't be sued, why are you forcing me to take something that could possibly mess me up for the rest of my life? I think that if that's the case, if I can't, getting a little too passionate over here. But I think that if I can't, if the vaccine manufacturer can't be sued, that should be one of the reasons alone as to why I should be able to make the decisions about myself. I think if I'm going to be administered a vaccine, I should have the right to sign off on a waiver like, hey, listen, if something happens to you, just know that you can't sue. But even for me to be in that position, I should not be forced to do that. If I want to go and get it, I should be informed that, hey, this can mess you up. Okay. But if anything happens, we are not liable. I think that's fair, and that's if we keep the Reagan Compensation Act. But I think it should be removed altogether. I think you should be held responsible. But if there's no meat in the middle, that needs to be done.
Absolutely. I think, and just to that point, really what you're speaking to is informed consent.
Correct. Well, that's the word for it. Yes, yes.
My little one is joining me. My son still is here. But I think that was the last of my questions, and I'm going to hand it over to you, Lori.
So to get to know you a little bit better, we have a couple quick fire questions. What was your first paid job?
AMC at Clifton Commons, and which is funny because I just saw 2,000 Mules there not too long ago, and that was the first time I've been there in years.
Was anybody that's still there that you worked with?
No, we're talking like when I was 16.
No, yeah. Well, my first job, the guy that I worked with is still there.
Wow.
I don't even want to tell. It was 24 years ago.
No, that's miserable. I can't, make popcorn for 15, 16 years,
What's your current favorite restaurant?
My current favorite restaurant? I'll be honest, I don't really, what? I would say Samurai Sushi and Rutherford. I would say that. I eat a lot of ramen there.
All right, guys.
But I eat everything, to be fair.
Any pets?
Yeah. I got since you said your son's joining you, I got my furry son, Hogan, right here.
Hi.
So yeah, named him after Hulk Hogan. I'm a big wrestling fan. So that's my pet.
Matching suit.
Yeah, I'm gonna get him a Billy shirt soon. But I've always had dogs in my life. Like I'm a very big dog guy. People call me the dog whisperer. So I love dogs.
Love that. That says a lot about a person. What is the most interesting destination you visited?
The southern border and Mexico, for sure. That was a very scary, crazy, eye-opening experience. It was way worse than anything that I've ever seen on TV. Easily the southern border for sure.
The last TV series you watched?
The last TV series that I watched, I don't really watch TV. I mean, I got a 50-inch TV in my room that's collecting dust. The last TV series that I watched, I think it was Squid Game. I'm not certain. I don't really watch TV. I'm not a TV guy. There's always propaganda and stuff.
We're busy.
Yeah. Well, that and there's propaganda on there, so I hate watching. There's always some agenda being put on television, so I don't like to watch it.
Hi, Oliver.
Hey, kiddo.
We have a guest host. Say hi.
Say hi, Allie.
Hi.
This is who we're going to be. We're in Billy's district, so this is who we're going to be voting for to be our next congressman. He's shy.
So this is why we do it, right?
Absolutely.
If when the government tortures just me, I don't really care. But you come for my kids, whole different ball game. Here I am.
Mama bears wake up.
And who is your most relatable historian?
My most relatable historian? Thomas Sowell.
Nice. Good answer. And we always like to ask, what does health freedom mean to you?
Health freedom means that Health freedom means that I should have the information in front of me. I should have the right to do what I want to do with my own body. And I know that's something that a lot of the abortion activists say, like, well, if you support the vaccine, it should be your body, your choice, then I should have the right to murder a child. And it's totally different. You know, from the moment of conception, that child is born with its own unique DNA. It has its own heartbeat. And that child is completely independent of you, other than the fact that it's dependent on you for survival. So then some will say, well, a baby's not viable until after birth. And I say, well, a baby's not viable until the baby's about 5 years old. The baby can barely speak. The baby's counting on you to feed it. The baby's counting on you to change the diaper. The baby cannot survive without a parent. So that argument goes out the window. That child is still a human being, and that child has its own rights as well, the same way everybody should have their own rights.
Thank you. Before I pass it along to Katie to wrap up, please share with us any way our viewers can help support you and any final words you may have.
The number one way that the people can help me is with donations and spreading the word. I hate to be the salesman guy that says, hey, give me some cash. But the truth is, in politics, you do need money. My opponent, he currently has $1.6 million in the bank. He gets almost all of his money from outside donors, from outside PACs and groups like the NJEA and Planned Parenthood that help prop up his candidacy. I can't do that. I can't get that same kind of money. I'm never going to get that same type of large party support from the GOP. So I'm really dependent on the people to actually help. And we have an opportunity to do it really well. When I ran in 2020, we only had a $20,000 budget, and we were able to break records with only that $20,000. So with that being said, I don't need $1 million like my opponent does. If I have $1 million, 100% I'm going to beat him. I believe it. Just looking at the trajectory and where we are, but I only need a couple $1,000, and I believe I'll be able to beat Pascal. So for the people that are listening, then they can donate. Donate $5 a month if you can, $20 a month if you can. If you can max out to the campaign, that'll be lovely. But do whatever's within your will, because I'm willing to fight. I'm not someone that's going to back down. I've gone against the odds. I've continued to spread the message. I'm fighting in an area that many Republicans wouldn't ever dare come in, and we're starting to change it. We're making influence. I've been on national television. We're getting attention to this district like no one has ever seen before, and we did this with pennies. Imagine what we could do if we actually had the funds to do even better. So that if we're able to do that, I can almost guarantee that we're going to win, but I can't do that without the support of the people. And I want the support of the people. I don't want checks from these large, giant corporations that'll eventually say, hey, Billy, remember I gave you that $1,000 check? Or, hey, Billy, remember that time? I don't want that. I want the money from the people that say, hey, Billy, remember you said you were going to do this. You said you were going to do this, and that's why I'm supporting you. And those are the people I want the money from, because those are the people that I'm going to keep my promise to. And those are the people I'm beholden to.
So what's the site to donate?
So they can go to billyprempeh.com/donate, or they just go to billyprempeh.com. In the menu, there's a button where you hit donate. You can donate right there. If you could do a monthly donation of $20 a month, that's going to go a long way. Some people think, oh, I don't have the money to donate. You can definitely pay $20. You can definitely pay $20 a month to do that. That's a meal for today, one person at McDonald's, dang near. Do that. You think about it this way. $20 a month is going to go towards pushing a candidate that's always going to put his best foot forward. And I'm always going to say what's on my mind and what's true to me, because no one's going to control me in terms of like the establishment and the party, especially when I'm getting the support from the people and only the people. Thank
you.
You also have a fundraising event coming up as well.
Yes. So for people that are in North Jersey, or if you want to come from outside of Jersey, that's even better. But on June 15th at Macaluso's in Hawthorne, New Jersey, we're going to be doing a huge event. You can get the tickets on my Facebook page, or you can go to www.billyprempeh.com/Macaluso's. The tickets are $125. If you can max out, like I said, by all means, it would be very, very greatly appreciated.
Awesome, Billy. Thanks for giving that transparency and that color. I think, just even speaking for myself as a donor, it's always nice to know, what the intention are when you make a donation. So knowing that you really stretch the dollar and that you put it towards these creative ideas to help your campaign, I think it's helpful for me, even as a donor, to hear it.
Well, I think that in politics, like people like to say, I don't donate to politicians. I don't consider myself a politician. I don't look anything like a politician. Like I'm just not that guy. I consider myself a regular constituent, just like everybody else, who just so happens to know a lot about politics. And I myself don't want a career in politics, contrary to popular belief, but I have a piece of legislation that I put forward called the 8-10-12 plan. I'd like to get that passed when possible. And that limits Congress. I mean, that limits the president to 8 years, 10 for the Congress and 12 for the Senate. I myself will have that bill applied to myself. I believe that anybody that's in politics longer than 10 years has to go. I don't want to do it more than 10 years. If, I get elected today, I'll be 42 by the time I'm done with my 10 years. I don't want to do it any more than that. I want to live my life, and I want to live under the policies that I helped push through. When people are in Congress for 40, 50 years, they don't really feel the effects of what they're doing to the common person. So term limits are important because you are the one that made this bill, so you deserve to live underneath it. And I don't want to be in there too long and be in politics long enough to become the person that I hate. So I myself will self-limit. And in order for this bill to get passed, because I know a lot of people in Congress are not going to want to vote themselves out of a job. As I say, hey, listen, you vote for this bill, you'll be exempt. You won't get it. You won't be subject to the term limits. But it's up to the people to vote you out. The next Congress person that fills that seat will be subjected to those term limits. I myself personally will self-subject. I don't want to be in there more than 10 years. Like I got my whole life ahead of me, and I still want to travel the world. I still want to enjoy the American dream that my parents brought me to this country for. And I don't want to waste that being in politics for the rest of my life. I want to contribute. I want to do what's right, and I want to live my life and enjoy America. That's why they came here.
100%. All right. So Billy, any final words from you before I look to wrap up? I'm just going to give our wrap up statement, but I want to make sure I give you the floor for any final words.
Final words is spread the word. If you believe in what I say, if you believe in my platform, or you believe in my positions, and you want someone that's actually going to go into Congress and fight and is not afraid to become, the enemy in Congress, the one guy that votes against all the nonsense. If you want that person in office, then please support me, donate to the campaign, spread the word, and if possible, please volunteer. I don't have the millions of dollars like my opponents to hire staffers and hire flunkies that'll knock your door that are not interested in what you have to say. All the people that come out and volunteer and help and knock doors and work with our campaign, they're doing it because they believe in what I say. They believe in the direction that we're going in, and they're doing it because they're just as passionate as I am. I want real people on the team. I'm a real person. I'm not one of those guys that's just going to go out and talk the talk and not actually walk the walk. I am willing to walk that walk, and I'm doing it currently, and I'll continue to walk that walk for all of you in America.
I know we have hundreds of followers in your district. Where are you meeting to walk Clifton? Can you give more details on that?
So on the campaign sidekick app, which is what we're using, we have a walk map that's on there, and this is one of the few things that I can thank the NJGOP for, or maybe just the person with the NJGOP that's helping us with that application. That's one thing I can say they've helped with. So I take that back that they haven't helped. They have helped with the campaign sidekick application, but they set up the walk maps for us, and what we do is we targeted Republicans and targeted independents that are on that application, and everybody else is volunteering in between. They're knocking doors as well, hitting the doors you missed, putting flyers on cars, supermarkets, whatever the case may be. So it changes quite a bit on the day. I'll be able to show you guys on the map where we're going to be knocking.
And how can someone get in touch with your campaign if they want to help, but they can't help that day?
So what they can do is shoot me a text message. My phone number is on my website in the contact section. Shoot me a text message. That's going to go to, I have two phones, one for politics and one for personal, but these phones are always on me at all times. If I don't respond to this text message, I am not ignoring you. You're probably just like number 200 in the queue, but I can assure you I will get to you and I will respond to you. If not, another thing you can do is you can send an email to volunteer@billyprempeh.com. But calling me on the phone is hands down the easiest way. If you text me, it's probably gonna get lost. It's easier to just call me. But just understand that if I don't get through, I'm not ignoring you. It's just I'm probably either on the phone or I'm in a meeting or something. But I can assure you I will get back to you.
Thank you. I know health freedom transcends a lot of parties. Independents, Democrats, Republicans all want bodily autonomy. So not everyone in each party, but I know there's a lot of people that would want to help you. So I appreciate that. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. And thank you for sharing your platform with me. Thank you for believing in me. And I'm not going to let you guys down. I'm not going to let New Jersey down. And I'm definitely not letting America and myself down.
All right, so there you have it, folks. That's NJPHIPAC's up close and personal endorsement of Congressional District 9's Billy Prempeh. We hope it's clear by now why NJPHIPAC has decided to endorse Billy in this upcoming primary election on June 7th. If you reside in District 9 or if you have friends and families that do, please spread the word of how important it is to support Billy's election.
Also, one last thing I want to say, if you don't know if you're in District 9 or not, you can go to www.billyprempeh.com/CD9, and you'll be able to see the entire map, and you'll see the municipalities that make up the 9th district.
That's a good note. Thank you. So it's not only advantageous, but imperative for us to have strong representation for New Jersey and our country. Our future and our children's future depends on it. We mentioned earlier that the success of the PAC relies on contributions from individuals like yourself. And being a grassroots organization, we are by the people and for the people. Unlike pharmaceutical giants who have millions at their disposal, the PAC's effort is a show of people. So that's not just dollars. What we have is a movement of thousands whose passion to preserve the rights cannot be bought or contained. In the eyes of legislators, contributions that you make to the PAC equals voters. And that is a currency that money can't buy. Every contribution to the PAC shows the legislators that we are a voting bloc and our concerns should be taken seriously. So to become a PAC contributor, please visit our website at www.njphipac.org and make a contribution today. No amount is too small. And thank you again for joining us this afternoon. And we'll see you next time on the PAC Chat.
God bless you too. Thank you for having me.
You too.
Thanks
Thank
so much,
you.
Billy.